Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Jyoti, I'm from booking.com. I'm working as a product manager there. And today I want to talk a little bit about how can we move from myths to momentum and turn an AI strategy into a product impact. Here is an agenda of what we are going to cover. In the first quarter, we will talk a little bit about what's happening in the AI world, what is changing there. In the second half, it's going to be more about how do we create like a winning strategy. In the third piece, we will talk a little bit about the some case studies that I have prepared, and then a little bit about framework that you can like take home with you, with your companies and your teams. I think before even talking about this slide, a couple of years back when crypto actually came into this whole world with the 24/7 trading window, I think it kind of made things a little bit more complex because we were more used to things happening on a weekday and a weekend sort of like a format. And I kind of feel similar with AI. The market literally never sleeps. The landscape is shifting every minute. Every few hours, every few minutes, there is some launch happening in some part of the geography, which is somehow relevant to all of us. And when I talk about, I think I can say this for everyone, all the technologists, product marketers, product managers, and commercial people, that it kind of feels a bit overwhelming when we have to keep up at the pace of the technology. Although the technology is bringing a lot of different changes and I'm optimistic about all its capabilities, but it's a bit overwhelming to like be at pace with everything what's happening. We do see in the market that there are like standalone apps like ChatGPT's Cloud and everything. The social media platforms, they have their own integration. The OS manufacturers, they have their own integration like Apple Intelligence. The creative companies are actually taking it to the next level wherein I don't know if you guys have tried Canva's AI features. It's like so easy to keep on like redesigning your house like every other minute. I'm just like literally hooked to it. And then there are some hardwares like Rabbit AI, which is also like a small hardware that you can carry with you everywhere, kind of like a replacement to your phones. But one thing is for certain that there is no single winning model. We can see that different companies are trying different things and they're trying to see what kind of like sticks to the wall and with their customers as well. We also saw that some sort of like non-traditional acquisitions. So OpenAI actually acquired a design company, which kind of tells us that there is going to be a lot of investment into hardware design going forward. So hardware also becomes like a very critical piece in the next piece. So I think that brings us to the question of what can we do to sort of win in this age of AI. Before talking about what we can do to win in this age of AI, I think I'm going to talk about what are the things that we should not do. So I think one thing that we should not do is like reinvent the wheel. A lot of companies, what we have seen is that they start thinking that they may probably need to make their own LLMs or they need to like start making things like from scratch, which typically doesn't work because there is so much available outside that you can actually like rely on. The other piece is black box features. I typically don't have anything against chatbot, but chatbot is not the only thing that you can do with AI. They do very well in operational workflows, but then it is something which can be easily copied by anyone else in the market as well. So imagine if you're kind of just putting a chatbot on your website, your competitor can also easily do so. This is a very important slide, which I typically keep on coming back to whenever I have any questions. So basically, AI amplifies everything that you know. So if you don't know anything, AI amplifies that as well. If you know something, AI is going to amplify that. So we need to keep that in mind. And when I say you here, I kind of mean like the company as well. So in terms of what do you know about your users, what do you know about their needs? When you're thinking of like product flows, how much do you know their needs and what kind of things do they require? Then in terms of the winning formula, it's actually nothing groundbreaking. It's basically going back to the drawing board and trying to understand what is the kind of data that you have, what is the unique selling point that you can figure out from that particular data, how well do you know your customers, and then what is the functionality that you are trying to provide to your users. AI is actually going to bridge the gap between the data that you have and the functionality that you provide to your users. You can use AI to actually provide context from your data to your functionality, and then use your functionality to again sort of steer back the information into the AI model that you're using. That actually creates a more defensible product moat that you can compete with like your other competitors. Some of the key emerging themes that we are seeing with the help of AI, it's specifically in the user acquisition flow as well as like internal company flows, is contextualization. So there is a lot of proprietary data which is present in like different data sets, but then you can easily actually understand what is the context where the user is coming from. And we will also talk a little bit in some of the case examples that are there. Getting the context from those touch points and then personalizing it. We'll talk about also like smart filters a little bit later. I think automation has been there throughout like many years, but what AI helps us do is it actually scales the way of automation. Anything which does not require a lot of cognitive load and something which can be like replicated easily across multiple instances, AI helps us do that like pretty faster. I think the previous speaker was also talking about how previously it used to take like 6 or 7 months to like launch certain features, and now it's only taking like 3 months. And that actually makes go to market really faster because now you can analyze a lot amount of data in much smaller amount of time. You can also instruct AI to do certain tasks for you. In terms of discovery, also the landscape is changing. Customers are more and more expecting you to be present where they are. So we are seeing in the market that traditionally the user behavior is actually shifting from going to internet to actually now going to like LLMs for planning all their travels and stuff like that. I think about even in the age above like 50 years, I think 60 to 70% of the people are now first using LLMs to find out the places where they want to go or like even plan their itineraries. And the last piece is actually ecosystem, which also means that if a user is present on your mobile and if they're present on your web and if they're interacting with your TV, so that actually forms a part of the ecosystem across multiple brands, across multiple touch points. And it actually, AI helps us and enables us to get that information from those different sources and also make our value proposition. So this is the first case study that I want to talk about. It's about Miro. I don't know if a lot of people use it, but it's like a very popular collaboration tool for product, tech researchers, and I think marketers as well. What happens is Miro is, it's like a board where you can collaborate, you can put like sticky notes together as a team, typically used in settings of like probably more than like 20 people like collaborating together. And I want to talk about how they are using their AI features in very small incremental things, but it's actually adding a lot of value to the users and creating a pipeline of those users towards more loyalty and like less friction piece. Miro's strategy is actually focused on making a verbal idea to a structured and artifact and presentation. And the cognitive load, so what they're trying to do is that there are certain actions that you can do on the board, which is a lot manual intensive and it doesn't have any cognitive pieces related to it. So they're trying to automate that using AI. Apart from that, the other piece that they're also looking at is typically when we think about our users in any scenario, we only think of like what are the actions the users are doing on the platform. We don't think before they come onto our platform and after, like where do they go and what do they do. So they're actually trying to do a bit of like horizontal integration in both sides. So they're covering more and more use cases. So the users end up being on their platform, and rather than going to like Google Slides or Google Docs, more and more users actually start using that. This is a visual example of like how like you can use workflows, you can have templates in Miro. And from a data perspective, the thing which Miro knows about you is that, let's say, there are multiple elements in this board. So there are some sticky notes with some text. So they have information about the text. They have information about the visual hierarchy. They have information about the spatial proximity of the different elements which are present on the page. And maybe some sort of like logical connection that, for example, this is step A and this is step B. So how do they use AI? So they have these two features that they have recently come up with, wherein of all the information that is present on your Miro board, you can, with the help of a click, you can actually make a presentation. So what used to happen previously was that if there was a Miro board, all of you would like collaborate on that. But then if you want to share that with the rest of the company, because everybody doesn't use Miro, what you would do is you would manually go copy probably all of the text, make your personal notes, and then make a presentation or like Google Slides or like a Google Doc. So they have kind of like automated that. They just collect all the data, select you to choose like some templates, and then a presentation is ready for you to like go and share somewhere else. The other piece that they're doing is like in some of the collaborative settings, there was a lot of discussion which used to happen between people in terms of, let's say, you are discussing about certain topics, and all those topics are like scattered across the board. Now, what they're doing is they're using AI to sort of group those elements together, which is also sort of taking away the cognitive load. So that basically means that they are using this piece of like the proprietary data that they have about the user, which is basically all the information which is present on the board in terms of like the visual elements, in terms of the other pieces. They have their own capability that they use LLM to sort of cross through the structure. They also test then what it makes sense to like logically group them in terms of like what kind of structure. And then they make a visual element of that. And that is one thing which is like their visual mode. The next thing which I want to talk about is an example from the travel industry. So Booking.com has these smart filters that I think is there in production for some time. What happens here is like previously when it is an attempt from our side to actually capture the context of the user and understand it a little bit more better and then translate it into the personalization of the user journey. So imagine if you were traveling a particular vacation to say like Barcelona, and you wanted to have a place which is near the beach, and you're traveling with your family, so you want like a place which is family friendly. Previously, the user would probably go and check some of the filters, I think, related to ratings and reviews, and we also had their history. So we could actually also predict, okay, like if the user has used these filters before, then we can actually also show them up before. But then at this, what we are trying to do is we are trying to use NLP to understand the context from a user standpoint a little bit more better. So what is the thing which is important to the user? I think probably not in this case, but then there are some cases where users also search for things like, let's say I want to stay in an area which is quiet. So previously there was no way to understand that kind of an information, which is so important for the user, because there was no way for us to understand that textual nuance of the things. And it was also limited to only the things that which could be like searched upon. But now with the help of AI, it is more and more easy for us to understand that piece that, okay, for this user, what is important is that they want a place which is quiet or maybe a place which is family friendly. And then we could look that across with the information that we have available on the different, in terms of like the hotel amenities that we have, in terms of like the customer reviews that we have, and sort of like carry forward over there. The next one that I want to talk about is like the internal optimization. So there is a lot of value that AI is also generating on internal workflows, specifically things related to if you have like some sales cases, and if there are some like automatic replies that could be sent on some use cases which were like done before. It is also a lot to do with like creation of themes, assets, creative banners and stuff like that. In fact, when I was making this presentation, I actually used the AI to like theme this presentation in the form of like the APS Berlin Summit. So if you see like the pink colors on the top and some of the elements here are actually taken from that. And it wasn't like really a big effort in that sense. So in terms of like the theming and template creation, and in terms of like the marketing creative assets, there is a lot value that can be generated using this. Also, video creation. There is so much that is happening from like, I would say audio to text to video. So in case you want to like market something within your company about something that you're working on, within a few lines of text, you can actually generate a video about the product workflow or the presentations that you're working on, short like 1-minute videos, which used to take like bandwidth from some other people and quite a lot amount of time before. Actually, it's also going to create different sort of opportunities for people across like the user acquisition funnel. So in terms of the awareness piece and the place where we actually inspire the users, the role of understanding what context is the user coming from, specifically if they are coming from, let's say, a particular travel blog, or if they're coming from maybe a gaming app, I think that is going to become more and more easier with the help of AI to sort of integrate different data sources and take that information from there. In terms of interest, when the user shows an interest, also to understand where they have showed a particular interest and where they can like click and what sort of information are they looking for, and what we can like supplement in that information by showing the relevant images, by showing the relevant text, which can be very contextual to the particular journey a particular user is in. And then in terms of their desire and action, like the example that we saw about smart filters, like when the user has decided that, let's say I have narrowed down the location to Barcelona, then I would interact with that and I would go through in that journey. This is more, this is not something live right now, but this is something which is like, is possible to do for us. So event-led discovery. So if, let's say you already know that a particular user is in the travel phase planning to explore some areas in Europe, and you know that the user has showed a particular interest in the music before. So we can actually get the information of which music taste the user has and then show them on that particular travel blog. So for example, if someone is a Taylor Swift fan, you could have a relevant placement of a concert that is happening during the same time, say in Madrid, which will help the user in decision making as well. And the next example is more about visiting Japan. So I think Japan is a very popular destination from Europe, typically. I think in the summers and the winters, like both the seasons. But a key question which users, when they are actually exploring a lot of places, is they look for what are the cheapest maybe prices to like go to Japan. I think that's one of the blockers before you like plan your itinerary. So if you know that there is a particular user which is interacting with some travel destinations, maybe also cross-complementing the information related to travel to those places can be like something which is possible. In terms of what is the framework for high-performing teams, I think with so much changing across in terms of the AI world, I think the only thing that we have control over is what we can learn. So I think it's very important for us to upskill ourselves, and not just ourselves, I mean, all the teams that we are working with. So for example, PM, design, engineering, commercial teams, I think everyone needs to be aware of what are the capabilities and possibilities of this. Also, there is a shift which is happening from how can you make like quality decisions, which is more like moving towards how can you do like a better prompting, because there are like so many things which are possible with AI. You need to be really good at like how you are prompting it. In terms of process and governance, also it's really important that there are like clear rules on data privacy and evaluation. One of the key things with LLM is like it has a non-deterministic output. So if you ask an LLM a question 3 times, it's more than likely that the third time the answer is not going to match what was there the second time and what was there on the first time. You can also try it on your ChatGPT, like asking the same question like 3 times. And if the same question is being asked by 3 or 4 people, the answer that they will get is very different from that. So it's very important that if in a company you have different teams which are working on different capabilities of LLM, there is a bit of like central governance around what goes out to the user, because it shouldn't be that in one part there is a team which is working on releasing something which actually ends up hampering the experience of the other side of the users. I think experimenting, validating, and like scaling the pipeline is really important. Also, in some cases, we have seen that if you are using an LLM to create an output, you can use another LLM to actually check the output of that LLM. That is also like possible. And then from a product standpoint, it will again be with the same workflow. Like you will have an MVP, then you will work on maybe properly developing the particular thing. But before that, you do need to understand what is the exact user problem that you're solving for, and marry that with what are the sort of capabilities which AI brings in. Some few examples of what is today happening in engineering is like, for example, there were some tasks related to code refactoring. Those kind of pieces can happen very easily with AI, creating actually creative variants of widgets, even experiment configurations. So think of anything that you have to configure and follows like a steady set of rules. You can actually use any of the LLMs available outside to sort of configure that piece. And yeah, that does improve the go-to-market piece. I think the key takeaway, again, is more around the clarity of strategy. So you would need to know beforehand what is the key need from your users, and then the precision of execution by having those necessary guardrails whenever there is an output which is produced by an LLM. And then you have to make sure that AI is also embedded into your everyday decision making. And that's how we can move from myths to momentum. Yeah, that's about it.